I made it. I made it. I absolutely 100% made it to the video. And I've got one question for you all. When it comes to terms of window color, what do you pick? Do you pick gray or do you pick blue? I picked blue. I'm interested to know what you did. But welcome back to the Final Fantasy Platinum series, the series where we go play all the Final Fantasy titles that are available on PlayStation. We play through them, we enjoy them, we try to enjoy them, we complete them, and we get the Platinum Trophy. And today's video is on Final Fantasy IX, and for those that know the trophy list, know what I've been through. So we're going to be having some fun in this one. So with that all being said, what is up guys? Jen here. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. As always, I've got you covered with timestamps in the description down below. So if you want to skip to a certain section, feel free, whatever floats your boat. All I ask is for you to like the video. So today's video is on Final Fantasy IX, and the way we go through this kind of video is we talk about the game, my recent experience with the game, then we go over the trophies, and then we kind of like reminisce all the way through as well. So I want to start off, much like I did with my Final Fantasy VIII video, you can see it just there, is that I streamed a lot of this for you guys to have a peek behind the curtain. It's always fun to kind of share my experiences with you. I'm hoping that in the future you can come over to the streams, hang with me, and just have a overall chill and good time. You can come along, you can lurk, you can follow, whatever you need to do if you want to be part of that kind of journey with me. I'm all cool with it. But yes, I ended up streaming this again for you all to witness as I was grinding through Final Fantasy IX. Now, as I always start off with these videos, I want to talk about my history with Final Fantasy IX. Now, Final Fantasy IX was my third Final Fantasy game. I had played 7 and 8, which were very similar in its kind of modern themes. So obviously I went into 9 thinking that I was going to get something along the same lines. I was at the stage where I was invested in Final Fantasy, so I didn't really pay attention to trailers or anything like that. As soon as it came out, I was all in. And when I say I was all in, I was all in on Final Fantasy IX. I loaded it up, I went through the beginning cutscene, and I definitely got a different vibe. The production quality had definitely gone up, but I wasn't used to this fantasy setting, this like kind of very true to what the previous 6 games were before 7. And I wasn't used to that, and I wasn't expecting it, so I didn't overall kind of get into Final Fantasy IX. I still loved all of the elements it brought to the table, but I didn't vibe with it as well as I did with 7 and 8. But I completed it the once, and I have not really gone back since. Every time there's been a re-release on PC or whether it is on the PlayStation Store, I have picked it up and I've played the first couple of hours and then I've just put it down. This is the first time in a long time where I went all in and did everything that the game had to offer. And in a nutshell, what I'm going to be going over is I absolutely loved it, and my perception of Final Fantasy IX has highly changed. So let's talk about the evolution of Final Fantasy from 8 to 9. 9 was truly a kind of return to form for the series. It harkened back to the games that made it over the years, especially Final Fantasies 1 through 6, though it did pay tributes to 7 and 8 as well. And you can really see the amount of love that is put into this game when it comes to the legacy of Final Fantasy. So we're back to classic kind of form with its high fantasy elements. We have a party of 4 after having 2 games of parties of 3. And for the first time since 6, the characters are kind of associated with a class. So for instance, Zidane is the thief, Steiner is the knight, Freya is the dragoon, Dagger is the white mage, Vivi is the black mage, etc. So when it came to that aspect of the game, you knew what you're getting into and what kind of party you wanted to form straight off the bat. But it also kind of followed the trait of you don't really have full control over what party members you can kind of take with you until the later parts of the game. The way this game is kind of set up is like the classics, where you kind of have set party members members throughout the story, very akin to Final Fantasy VI. And you know what? It really works for Final Fantasy IX because it gives chances for all of these characters to kind of develop to a certain degree. So let's move on to the story of Final Fantasy IX. I'm just going to put a warning here now. So if you don't want to be spoiled about the story of Final Fantasy IX, you know, skip to the next section when I talk about something else that you're interested in. But the story, again, harkens back to the classics. We kind of go through different phases of the story. We start off by kidnapping the princess. We then escape from Alexandria and the military behind that because we've obviously kidnapped the princess. We then kind of dive into this kind of war story and how the Queen of Alexandria is just starting war and we don't really know why. And then we get introduced to Kuja and his influence on this. And then we realize throughout the game that there's another world called Tetra which wants to kind of take over Gaia and replace it and destroy Gaia because there's a history in that. And this is where Zidane's from, and he was actually sent to Gaia to kind of be part of this kind of transition to turning it into the new Tetra, and Kuja is his brother. Like, the story constantly goes through all these phases. You think it's nice, a nice little innocent kind of theatre troupe that are kind of just doing little bad antics here and there, and it kind of blows up as it goes. And the kind of pacing of the story is quite nice. I enjoyed the pacing of the story and the way it kind of introduced characters in and out. Speaking of characters, let's briefly go over some of these characters. The main character, Zidane, one of my favorites, you know, one of the stronger protagonists of the Final Fantasy series. He doesn't have like unbelievable traits when it comes to his characteristics that kind of really make you fall in love with him, but just kind of his happy-go-lucky attitude and his like peeks behind the curtains to his emotions here and there really kind of resonated with me and kind of added to the story. And of course we had that epic scene about like 3/4 of the game where the classic track You're Not Alone plays, and we really kind of see Zidane at his worst and just how he deals with that. Really powerful scene, and a lot of people's favorites, mine included. Then we have some of the other characters, and you know, Vivi is probably the best character of Final Fantasy IX. Just the way he's written, his backstory, and just his evolution throughout the game is fantastic. Steiner is definitely a character within himself, and how he evolves through the story, and how, you know, towards the end of the game, he kind of lets go of his displeasure towards Zidane and, you know, calls him a comrade, and that's quite the character development of how Steiner truly is. But then we have characters like Dagger that have a deep backstory because, again, in the story we learn about the summoners and how they inflict the worlds, but Dagger definitely has her character development in that arc. And Freya is one I really want to point out in regards to her character development because she starts off very strong. We meet her in Lundblum, we kind of go to Brumecia and go through that entire arc and then look at her history from Fratley, and after that the story's dead for her. And, you know, she could have been really well written. Maybe we could have encountered Fratley throughout the world as he's trying to regain memories and really rekindle their relationship back together, which will then lead up to their ending scene of Final Fantasy IX, but they didn't do that. I really feel that some of the side characters are better written, especially when it comes to Marcus and Blank, the brothership that they have, and Beatrix. I really wish that she was a permanent character. It may have looked like she may have been a permanent character at some stage, and I know that there's mods out there to add story to Beatrix to Final Fantasy IX on PC when it comes to the Meguri mod. So she really is a strong side character and adds to the side characters we have of this game. There is a really strong cast here in Final Fantasy IX. So let's move on to the world of Final Fantasy IX. And again, it harkens back to the classics. We have our villages, we have our towns, we have our grandiose castles that we can visit. We have all these variations of dungeons, some of them harking back to past games, like for example Mount Gulug. There is so much crammed into this world, and it opens up to you over time as you get access to the ship, as you get access to the airship, and just kind of overall kind of explore this world, all its nooks and crannies. There's so many places you can visit and so much fun you can have in this world, and I think it's really well crafted. So let's flip the script and talk about the combat of Final Fantasy IX. And I'm going to start off on a rather negative note, and I think a lot of you are going to predict what I'm going to say about combat. Combat in Final Fantasy IX is very slow. I just feel like if combat was just a little bit faster and not really focused on all of the animations, because the animations are really, really nice in the battle system. All of the ways that enemies have different death animations instead of just fading away, and all the animations for all the abilities and all of the things in between. It's really, really good, but it makes combat very slow and really, really kind of outdated when it comes to Final Fantasy IX. But that's the only bad thing about combat. I really like combat. Again, we've got the classes return, so we know what we're getting with our characters. Not only that, we have a party of 4, so we've got more variations that we can include in that party. For those that are interested of the final party that I went with, I of course went with Zidane, I went with Garnet. I know that Aiko is usually a better choice than Garnet. I also took Quina because she is one of the best characters when it comes to combat utility in Final Fantasy IX, and I took Steiner because of just his overall DPS and strength he brings to the party. If only we could break that damage limit, he would be incredible. But that was the team that I went with. But another thing I really like combat is just the layers of strategy. We have probably the most status elements we've seen in a Final Fantasy. I guess you could quote me and tell me if I'm wrong on that, but there is definitely a big variation and lots of kind of things to think about as we go into battle. Should I take the abilities, which we'll talk about in a second? So should I take certain abilities with me into this dungeon because the enemies here might poison me? Should I take a coral ring because there is a lot of enemies that use thunder-based abilities? There's a lot of thinking, and I do like that in Final Fantasy IX. It's just that trial and error experience of an RPG, which is really nice. It can be frustrating because you could constantly be getting it wrong, but as you learn and you kind of overcome, it is very, very satisfying. So I spoke about abilities and I briefly touched on equipment. Equipment matters in Final Fantasy IX. It's probably the greatest thing when it comes to developing your characters, because you have reasons to kind of use old equipment that may be weaker than what you're carrying, or just hold on to a certain piece of equipment a little bit longer before you move on to the next one, because each piece of equipment comes with an ability for the character to learn, whether it's a passive ability like being immune to poison, being immune to confuse and other status elements, or adding a certain percentage of HP or MP, or leveling up faster, learning abilities faster, having a auto positive element on you like auto life or auto haste. But it also teaches you, for example, with VV, black mage spells, or when it comes to Dagger and Aiko, summons. So there's a lot to think about, and it's reason to kind of go out into the world. And we have synthesis as well, which really helps, and kind of look at all the things that we get, look at the things that we can learn and see what will benefit us as we progress through the game. And of course we can try and get all of them if we want to. So I really, really like that system. And we started off with a negative of combat being the kind of slow and clunkiness of that battle system due to animations, but there is one more thing, and I think you all know what I'm talking about, that really lets combat down and we didn't get the full potential of it, and that was Trance. Some of these abilities are fantastic, like really nice abilities, really cool animations, but the way Trance works, it works a lot like the limit break system of Final Fantasy VII. The only caveat of being, like, if I trance in the battle and then we suddenly win, that's it. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to have to wait for it to recharge once again. So it is literally like a one-shot ability. You can't really plan or save it. I really feel like they should have just took the limit break system for the Trance system, because we would have got so much more out of it. So with combat all being talked about, let's talk about the side and end game content of Final Fantasy IX. And I'm really excited to talk about this because I feel personally that this is the best side and end game content we have in a Final Fantasy as we've played through the series from 1, 2, 3 and so on till we got here at 9. We have the Chocobo side quests, whether it is hot or cold, or hunting the Choco grass throughout the map, or finding the hidden items in the mountains or in the deep seas. We have a lot of stuff here. We have the Moogles, the Mognet Central, and that side quest, and that's good in itself. There's probably things I've missed. There's the Stelezio coins and collecting those and finding them all over the place, and then trying to find the 13th one. There is the coffee side quest to just get a model of the Prima Vista to put in to the Tantalus hideout. Just very small things here and there, and a lot of things to have fun with, except the jump rope thing. That's just really frustrating. again, and we'll touch on that when we talk about trophies. But there is some really cool side content in here, and it's all enjoyable. We even get to catch frogs with Quina to get more weapons for Quina. The more there is in here, and it's all enjoyable. With side content, we've got to talk about its card game. We got Triple Triad in Final Fantasy VIII, and it is the best mini game in the Final Fantasy series. Final Fantasy IX had the opportunity to adapt from that or improve it, and they came up with Tetramaster. Now, Tetramaster does have its pros and cons. It is a game that you can learn and one that you can really get into, but the only letting down factor of Tetramaster is that there is a little bit of RNG involved, and it is horrible, especially when you're playing the best cards and you're still losing that card. It can be really, really frustrating. Tetramaster had the potential to be really good, but there is just that RNG factor that really lets it down. Things that don't let us down though is the soundtrack of Final Fantasy IX. There are some really good tracks in the Final Fantasy IX soundtrack. In particular, You're Not Alone. When you go against Trance Kuja's theme in general, the world map theme. I am a sucker for Melodies of Life. I love that song, and it always gives me goosebumps when I listen to it. But this has some real classic tracks here. The Victory Fanfare, fun fact that you probably already know, but it's a combination of the fanfare and when you find an important item in the classic Final Fantasies, you know, the da 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 da. I was really impressed with myself when I noticed that, but I assume a lot of people already know that. So, you know, it is what it is. But this is a fantastic soundtrack. So let's move on to the PS4 port of Final Fantasy IX. Now, it's a little bit different to what we got from Final Fantasy VII and VIII, where we don't click in the analog sticks for our boosters. We have to pause it, and then we have R1, L2, L2, and R2 to kind of select. And the abilities that we have, the boosters we have, I should say, are 999 damage, which is nice. It doesn't matter what you've equipped, that is the damage output you will have every single strike, whatever you may use. We have the fast forward, which is great for grinding. No random encounters, which is great for avoiding encounters. And then we have like God mode, which essentially keeps our health and MP topped up at all times, and we're forever trance. So if you really want to get a good experience of the trance system, I suggest just having this on just for a little bit, just to kind of mess around with these abilities. But something that's more additional to Final Fantasy IX is the permanent boosters, which disable trophies, but can really kind of make the experience so much more easier if you just want to experience Final Fantasy IX's story. Again, we have really sharp, nice character models. It's really nice the detail that they have in these models. It's really, really kind of sharp and crisp. But again, the pre-rendered backgrounds are just not up to scratch. I really wish that Square would kind of invest in some kind of technology, or just use the technology that's out there to enhance these pre-rendered backgrounds so they look crisp as they do on some of these PC mods. So now we move on to trophies. Right off the bat, we have the worst trophy in this game, Bloodlust. Defeat 10,000 enemies. You know, this can be grinded, but it's going to take you a very, very long time. I will just kind of admit it. I farm this using a script. Literally, you can auto battle as much as you want, but it will take you, if you were to play this naturally, probably like casual sessions, you're looking at like 20 to 30 hours. But if you use a script that literally just skips the victory scene, you will get this done within around 16 hours. Driving the Hard Bargain, this is just a side quest that you'll get, very easy if you follow a guide. Uncover the Secret of the Eidolon Wall is, again, another little side quest that uncovers more story. This is one of the fun ones where you keep calling the Moogle to the world map. Follow your nose. You'll get this naturally if you really invest yourself in playing Chocobo Hot and Cold. Visit every beach in Gaia. This is tied to the Chocobo side quest, and it'll be very easy to get. Dig in it, again, Chocobo side quest, and we've got the Moogle side quest as well. These are all going to be very easy if you kind of just follow Frog Wrangler. Again, catch 99 frogs, side quest done. You'll get the golden frog eventually as well as you do it. Win 10 items in the Trino auction house for auctioneer. Very easy trophy. Obtain the Sacred Blade Excalibur. This version of Excalibur, pretty easy to get. Beating the Ragtime Blues, another side quest. The Mr. Nice Guy, another side quest easy. Alsma, you want to probably go in this a little bit prepared. and make sure that you've got the relevant things. You might want to do this Mr. Nice Guy quest first before you do Ozma, because you're going to get some perks that are going to give you quite the advantage. But Ozma doesn't follow a script when it comes to battle. He is very random, so you either need really good RNG or you just need to be on your toes with healing and doing strikes at the appropriate time. My Little Airship is to do with the coffee quest. Then we have the Stalizio coins in earning the Queen's favor. What's Your Sign is linked to that, which is easy to get. Another Man's Treasure, this harkens back to classic Final Fantasies with having all the treasures that are hidden throughout the world. As long as you're opening every chest that you see and looking in every nook and cranny, this will be very easy to obtain towards the end game, and a nice little Easter egg for fans of Final Fantasy V. We have Dragon Lady, which again, very easy. And next we have Hail to the King and Skip to My Lou. And I'm going to be 100% honest here. I ended up using a script to get Hail to the King. Please don't hate me, but I tried to get this naturally. I really tried. My maximum I got was around 324 I got, but my hand-eye coordination just isn't what it is. I tried to go into Zen, close my eyes and listen to the sound, but it just wasn't happening. So I resorted, like most players probably would, to a script to get these trophies. Round of applause, very easy to get. A hunting we will go. Again, just get to the point where you have Freya and Zidane in your party and then just eliminate yourself and Vivi will win. All's well that ends well, complete the game, very easy. Attain level 99 with at least one character. You probably want to grind against the Grand Dragons and just make sure you have one character alive to get as much EXP as you can. It's probably about an hour or two grind to get, not too hard whatsoever. Maiden's Ring, it's tied to a certain location you get where you can do some mining. It takes a little bit of RNG, but you'll get it eventually. This is also tied to Peekaboo and it's in the same area. Track Star, this is a mini game when you return to Alexandria. Found in the Shuffle, the same here. I really advise probably recording the gameplay and watching it back unless you have the keenest eye in the world to do this. It's all in the cards. A lot of people get frustrated with this, but I really like playing Tetra Master, even if I did lose at times. In Bill of Health, you might just want to look at a guide of what status elements you can get from what character and then just inflict it on a character of your choosing. It doesn't have to be done at the same time because that would be crazy, but you just need to make sure that a character has experienced all of these status elements. Overall emotional, you probably get this naturally as you go through the game. You'll probably get Trance more than you actually use it. So there we go. Movie critic, just make sure you get all the ATEs in the game. There is one in particular that requires you to have less than 50 gil at a certain point of the game. So over the moon, moonstones appear throughout the game. You need to do certain things. It's linked to getting 100 out of 100 nobles at the beginning of the game. It's linked to the Friendly Monsters quest, and you'll find more along the way as well. Then here we have all of the ultimate weapons. You'll find these in the final dungeon, for the exception of Ultima Weapon and Excalibur 2. Excalibur 2 requires you to get to that point in the game before 12 hours. All you got to do is just play through the game. You can play it on fast forward if you really want to get there fast. You probably will get there within like 3.5 hours. So it's up to you how you want to tackle that one. And then Ultima Weapon is not in the final dungeon. It is a Chocobo location that you need to go back to once certain events have happened. Complete the set of Agenji armor. You'll probably get this naturally as you do the Chocobo Hot and Cold hidden quests. Receive a Very Good Omen is a thing in Dali that you do in the inn, and you just need to get a certain color for it to happen. And then guide all the residents to Clara to safety. Probably just want to follow a guide on that one. And there we go. Then I got the Platinum Trophy and it was all over. Thank goodness. What a grind. This is one of the grindiest Final Fantasies I've played, especially when it comes to its Bloodlust Trophy. It would have been just so much better if it was 1,000 or even 2,000. People would have got that more naturally. But the fact you've got to go out your way to get 10,000 enemies, it's pretty crazy. The game is amazing. The game is beautiful, but its trophies absolutely suck. And you know, that's probably the perfect segue to end this video. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you are notified of that content, and check me out on all my socials, including my Discord and where I stream. I thank you for watching. What are your opinions on Final Fantasy IX? I really think it's one of the better Final Fantasies, but again, the trophies are just not that great. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching, and until next time, Final Fantasy X's next, I'll catch you on the flip side.